I would be more upset if you got a tattoo.
On my face.
It would depend where the tattoo is, I suppose, or what the tattoo was.
What if I just got like teardrop tattoos?
Dear Shandy.
Welcome back to Dear Shandy, listeners. Hello, Andy.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Why do you look so shocked?
I know. I love orange on you.
Really?
Yeah, it makes me happy.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. My God. You know, I spent a lot of my 20s being afraid of the color orange.
Really? Mm-hmm. Why?
It just seemed like it would look bad on me. And then I was like, wait a minute. When I tried it on, I was like, actually.
No, it's great. It's one of your best colors. That and purple.
Oh.
Isn't orange a primary color?
No,
Did you
Andy,
teach me
no,
that?
it's
Okay,
not.
forget it. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
We're going to pretend that didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
Okay, so we're already off topic. Today is Caller Day.
Yeah.
And we are joined today by a lovely caller named Cierrah. Cierrah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. I
Welcome.
appreciate it.
Do you
Thank
mind
you.
giving us your age, your city or region, and your story, please?
Sure. So I'm 29. I live in Vancouver. So the west coast of Canada. I'm out here in British Columbia. Yeah. West coast, best coast. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I think
but
for
okay.
Canada, it might be true.
I know.
I have
No?
mixed
Sorry,
feelings. I have
Okay.
mixed feelings because I do love BC, but I do feel a sense of loyalty to Ontario.
Yeah, but isn't loyalty inherently a prejudice?
Yes, I
Okay.
can admit that.
All right. So
Okay,
carry on.
carry on.
Sorry. I know that was controversial of me to say. I apologize. I'm really starting off on a strong foot.
We forgive you.
So yeah, so I'm 29, live in Vancouver. My question, what this is about, is my parents. So they're in their 50s. I wrote in about a situation that happened in my household. And so when I say my household, the context here is that I live in the basement suite of my parents' home. Housing market in Vancouver is crazy. So I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to be living in their basement suite.
Yeah.
And
it looks lovely.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I do my best to also try and be like grateful about that opportunity. But of course, it comes with its pros and cons.
Of course.
And I think the cons have sort of, this is what I'm writing it about, is the fact that there was some family drama, some family dynamics that made myself and my husband quite uncomfortable, where my dad, for context, my dad he's a very outgoing guy. He really likes to express himself. He's got tattoos. He's previously shaved his head into a mullet, yes, and a mohawk. So
Whoa,
he's an expressive
nice.
guy.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I've got my mom, who I think is somebody that cares a little bit more about her appearance, in that more like the society and the mold of what people think I should look like and think I should wear as this person. She's more on that side. So they're opposites in that way.
Okay.
Similar in many other ways, but opposites in that way. So one day my dad comes home. He's visited my brother-in-law downtown at a tattoo studio. And my dad has got a nose piercing. So he's come home with a nose piercing. Again, context. I have my nose pierced. My sister has her nose pierced. My mom has her nose pierced. So my dad's come home with a piercing. He's discussed how he's wanted it before.
He felt left out.
Yeah, he felt left out. He wanted to be in the cool kids club. I get it.
Yeah.
Totally fair, So he's come home with this nose piercing, and my mom was upset. Doesn't even begin to describe it. She was very upset, angry, disappointed, and so it kind of played out in front of me and my husband, this dynamic between my parents, where it was full blown, not even an argument. It was my mom gave him the silent treatment of, and then it was comments of like, I can't look at you with that. I can't believe you would do this. I don't want to talk to you. I later spoke to my dad, and she was saying things like, don't come to my soccer games. I won't be seen with you in public. Full stop.
What kind of nose piercing are we talking about here?
It was a
Is it a
little nose ring. It was a little nose ring. Yeah.
How little? Like dainty little, or like I could see it from like 20 feet away.
No. My dad posted a photo on his Instagram of him with it,
Mm.
and no one noticed.
Oh, okay. Dainty.
So basically, full stop. I can't be seen in public with you. It sort of sounds like hurling insults, like really trying to make him feel
Yes.
real bad about this choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
She doesn't want him to have that.
Sorry. I just want to be abundantly clear. Your parents are together, correct? They're
Yes.
still, they live under the same roof and
Yes.
okay. And so this created tension. I take it this has gone on. It wasn't just one day.
Yep, exactly. So it went on for a couple days, and I tried to talk to my mom about it and just point out to her, like, Dad he's a creative guy. He is a person who likes to express himself outwardly, in his appearance, in his clothing. He's got his tattoos, like that's how he is. When they met, he had a tongue piercing. He then went on to eventually also get his nipples pierced. He took them out.
Huh?
More layers to this. They were separated for a year and got back together.
Ooh, how long ago was that?
That was about 2004 to 2005. They were apart for about a year.
Wow.
So it was about 15 years ago. Yeah.
What was
Mhm.
that like?
Thinking back to it now, it's so interesting. When I was younger, sort of this picture gets painted for you about how it's your dad's fault that we're not together. We're not together. And now as an adult, I'm like in my own marriage and seeing it from the outside, I'm like, no, ma'am, it takes two to tango. And it's like, there's absolutely no way that it was all on Dad, but that picture was sort of painted for me. And of course, when they got back together, I was really happy about it. But this situation was so upsetting for me, I think, because I was like, I'm watching my dad just try and live his life. He just wants to be himself. And she cannot stand it. He slept on the couch for a night. It got to the point where he did remove it. After a couple days, he said,
oh,
he's like,
bummer.
I know. He was like, Cierrah, I can't take this drama. I can't take the tension. I just can't handle it. And for me, that is when I was like, okay, well, you know what? I can't stand this. If I've had to see this all go down, I have to speak to my mom about the fact that this is so inappropriate how she's treated him. And like, for the times where also it's like, it's the pot calling the kettle black here, because I'll sit at the dinner table with my parents. I'll say something to my husband and my mom's like, Cierrah, you can't say that. That's not very nice. And so, if she can call me out on my poor behavior, can I not then do the same? Is this not a two-way street? Is that even fair? So that's kind of part of my question here is like, is it fair for me to then have gone to her and been like, the way you treated Dad has made me so upset. I was so anxious about it, because also it was flashing back to like, cool, are my parents going to separate? Like,
Over
is
a
this going to
nose
be
piercing.
Is this going to be the straw that broke the camel's back?
I'm curious to know how she responded when you confronted her.
It was exactly as I expected. It was well, thank you for telling me, but this is between me and your dad. And I was like, her points were like, I'm so upset that he didn't tell me that he was doing it. And I said, Mom, you have to start looking around and thinking about the fact that, my sister, myself, and my dad, the three of us go do things and we don't tell you about it beforehand because we are worried about the flack that we're going to get. And so I was like, I can understand that you're upset that Dad went and did this, but you maybe need to look internally at the fact that everyone that is close and around you doesn't want to tell you certain things because we're worried about the kickback we're going to get. So we then choose to lie by omission and just deal with the consequences later. All three of us are doing that to you. And she was like, well, I don't know what to say. Well, I don't know what to say either, except for it's immature.
I have a question. Since her main complaint, it sounds like, is the fact that he didn't run it past her first. Would you say that was the main complaint?
It was also, there was that, and that she was like, your dad knows that I hate piercings on men.
But she married a guy with nipple rings.
Yeah. Well, the nipples came later, but the tongue ring was before.
Yeah.
How did she feel about the nipple piercings? It was a problem.
When they got back together, his Valentine's Day gift to her was them out in a bag, being like, "I took them out for you."
Oh my goodness. This is fascinating. It's fascinating. Your parents are so different from mine. That's all I could say. Okay, I have so many thoughts already. Do you have any questions before we get going?
No, I mean, my initial feeling, and I think this is kind of obvious, is that this is not really about this ring. It's about how your mom seems to rule the family with fear. And that's a dynamic that is coming out as a manifestation in this ring situation, but this has nothing to do with the ring.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I first want to add a caveat at the top because I agree. But I do think that there's something to be said about in a partnership. Like, I will admit, if you went out and just did something drastic, if you went out and shaved your head, dyed your hair blonde, got a piercing on your face or something and didn't tell me and just came home like that, sort of like if I went out and got a pixie cut and came home, like you'd be like, Yeah,
but if there's precedent, it's different because I have precedent. I don't do anything. I don't have tattoos. I've never had piercings. I don't do anything.
Yeah.
I don't even get my haircuts the same as like haircut I got when I was 12. So you would be shocked, and rightfully so, because I have set the precedent.
Yeah.
But he set the precedent with a tongue ring and nipple rings and tattoos and a mohawk and a rat tail. Sorry, was it a rat tail or a
mullet?
Mullet.
Oh, mullet. What's the difference between a rat tail and a mullet? Oh, there is a difference.
Yeah,
There's a
it's a
big
huge
difference.
difference.
Sorry.
And the
I
mullet
apologize to the mullet wearers.
The
out there.
mullet is back.
The mullet's back, but the rat tail is not back.
I don't know if the rat tail's ever
no one
back.
likes the rat tail.
People said that about the mullet.
For better or for worse, the mullet is back. Absolutely.
Okay. The mullet definitely ranks higher than the rat tail on the hairstyle.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
anyway, so the precedent was set. So it's not like he came home with, I don't even know. It's so extreme, all the things he's doing for a dad that I can't think of.
Yeah.
What would be the extreme thing? Like coming home,
I don't know.
I don't even know. With like one of those things where like they put
the ring in here.
Or they change the color of their eyeballs. Like an eyeball tattoo. Like where they
Okay.
Anyway, my point is there's something that's crazier. But I'm saying the precedent was set. So she shouldn't be that shocked. She should be like, you know what? I'm not that into that. But, do what you want to do because this is what I signed up for. And of all those piercings, the nose ring is by far, I don't know what the standard,
I agree. I think the nose piercing
the least
is
offensive.
Yeah, out of tongue, nipples, and nose. I agree.
Yeah, it's the most mundane of
Not
all
that
those
I
piercings.
know anything about this.
So I think it was an inappropriate reception to that.
It's very controlling.
Yeah.
Look, like I said, that's my caveat. I think that when you're in a partnership, you want to maybe not unpleasantly surprise your partner with decisions like that. I mean, they are the one that looks at you every day. They look at you far more than you look at yourself, technically. So I get that. But I do find it controlling, even down to the fact that she claims her main beef was with the fact that he didn't tell her because, like you suggested, I don't think that really was the reason.
Maybe it was his way of trying to assert some, not dominance, but at least some presence, some sense of self in the relationship. And it might have been a passive aggressive move. I don't know what the dynamic is between your parents, but he might have been like, I'm going to do this knowing she's not going to like it, but I want to assert myself.
He sounds spontaneous and fun.
Yeah, it sounds like that's not what happened. It sounds like he just was like, I want to get a nose piercing.
That is what happened. And I agree with you, Sharleen. And I did say this to my mom as well. I said, I understand that him coming home with this was a shock. And that maybe right off the bat, you're going to be like, okay.
I need a minute. Yeah.
I need some time. And to her credit, she did say, she's like, I need some time. But there was no, I'm going to take some time and I'm going to process. It was, I'm going to take some time to berate you. And it's going to be, I'm going to say X, Y, Z, and I'm going to say it in front of my kid and everyone's going to hear it. She was viscerally upset. And I get that maybe that was like that shock. I mean, if my husband came home, same thing. Like you said, Andy, if he came home and he had a shaved head, I'd be like, what the hell is going on here?
You couldn't think to send me a text?
Yeah. Can you just let me know those blonde locks are gone? Okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, Andy, like you said, precedent set here, so I do understand where she's coming from in that initial reaction was a bit visceral, but for it to then carry on and just keep going, to the point where it was so much harder for my dad to exist with it than without it, that he just took it out. That's where I was like, okay, now we got a problem.
That bums me out, honestly.
It bummed me out. You have no idea. I love my dad because we've had this relationship where, like, if you asked me 5 or 6 years ago, what's your relationship like with your dad? I would say, like, it's not the best, but we've kind of come full circle where we really see each other as equals now, and we have a fantastic relationship. So that's why I think for now with my mom doing this, I was like totally in my dad's corner. Because the respect I have for him and the respect he has for me is so mutual. Whereas for my mom, it's this like power dynamic struggle. Like the understanding I'm trying here is that I get that the way that she was shown love is now how she is anticipating everyone else to then do that for her, which was in the way of, my grandpa was an immigrant from Italy, grew up in a convent. It was very strict. And it's like, if you love me, or love looked like, if I say that I don't like that you're doing this thing, you're not doing that thing. And that was an understanding of, well, that's just what you do when you love someone. If they don't like something that you're doing, you don't do it. So I think my mom's understanding and concept of love is that. And I can double down on saying that that's the case because I have had to go through therapy to unlearn the ways that I treated my partners. I've had to go from having this like really anxious attachment style and this like control and feeling like, well, if you love me, you're going to just bow down to me. Like I used to do that. And the irony is that she pushed me into going to therapy to seek help for these things that I was doing. And now I'm looking at her and it's like looking in a mirror at my past self, the person who used to have all these problematic behaviors.
So my next question is, has your mother ever sought out therapy, or she thinks she has nothing to fix, I assume?
Well, I did say to her, I was like, whatever happens between you and dad is what happens between you and dad. But I said to her, there's 2 things that I think as a family going forward, what we need to address. Number 1, like this dynamic. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. 2, like if you're going to openly display conflict, can we not also openly display conflict resolution? Is there not an onus on you to be like, hey, the way I talked to your dad was inappropriate or whatever? And I was like, do you not feel bad that you essentially gave him an ultimatum to be like, take the ring out or I won't be seen with you in public? She's like, well, we talked about it. We came to an understanding. And I was like, no, you did not have a conversation to come to an understanding. You gave him an ultimatum. That's what that was. And she's like, well, you might see it that way. And I was like, you need therapy, period. And she was like,
wait, did you say that? Oh, you said that. What'd she say? Sorry.
No, she was like, well, that's your opinion.
Oh, man. Oh, man. You know what this story represents to me? And age 29 really, to me, like pinpoints that. I don't know what age you start to feel it, but I feel like you reach an age where you're no longer in school. You've been a living, breathing, like autonomous adult for a decade or close to it. And you realize that your parents, A, are not perfect, and that B, they have traits that not only would you not seek out in a friend, but that they would turn you off.
Yes.
Like they have traits of someone you would not want to spend your free time with.
Well, often they have traits that you've taken on inadvertently that you don't like about yourself.
Yes.
So they're reflected in you.
Yes, totally.
Which makes it worse.
Yeah. And I wonder, for me, it's like around the age 30 zone that you're in that I think that sort of represents that for some reason. I don't know. You start to see your parents
as regular people.
Yeah.
Who have flaws.
Yeah. Exactly. So is this an am I the asshole question, or is it a should I have done things differently? Like, what can I do differently? I'm just curious if you did have to distill it down.
I guess it's a little bit, am I the asshole? It's like, do I have a right to then speak to my mom in this way of being like, I'm not trying to call her out, really. I'm trying to call her in. I'm trying to call her in to being a better person, a more self-reflective person. Do I have a right to even be stepping between this conflict between my parents? Or is it just well, Cierrah, you're going to have to sit back and let it happen? Like,
I mean, I think you definitely have a right. As a matter of fact, my suggestion for this situation, this nose ring is just symbolic of the bigger problem. So I'm not going to even talk about that. But I think that anytime you see this type of behavior from your mother that is wrong within their relationship, you should call it out. You should, not in some official manner, but create some sort of reaction that clearly is dismay or express your dismay every single time you see it. And that's it. That's all you can do. I think the nose ring thing is buried. I don't think you need to look. He did the right thing. He saved his marriage, basically. He says, I'm either going to have a nose ring or my marriage. I think he made the right choice. Yeah. Obviously, in a perfect world, he wouldn't have had to do that.
See, I kind of wish that he hadn't, because I think that it's giving in. It's giving
that's
her.
That's not a hill to die on, though.
No, I know it's not a hill to die on, but it's almost. It's like you said, it's symbolic.
But then he should just leave her, because if he's not going to give in on that, then there's a much bigger problem. He's not giving. It
represents probably 1,000 compromises. You know what I mean? It represents so many compromises, and this is just like a small display of self-expression. I agree. It's not a hill to die on. It says a lot about his personality that he did remove it. It just, I don't like rewarding people with what, you know what I mean? It's like having a temper tantrum and then your mom being like, okay, here's the thing you were crying and screaming for.
Yeah, but this was potentially marriage ending. I think in other situations. Marriage ending,
I mean, I'm sorry. Like marriage ending,
it's her fault for making it marriage ending.
On.
It's her fault for making this a marriage ending situation. Yes. That's a given. And we all know that. But she's clearly an alpha male in this family. Or an alpha, sorry.
You can't say alpha.
She's just alpha. Sorry, not male. So that dynamic is really hard to break. I mean, you've seen the cartoons, right? Where the alpha, what's the cartoon? What is it? Lion King? Is that an alpha thing, or is it the wolf thing?
You've never even seen Lion King.
There's a Disney thing where there's an alpha, and then the alpha gets knocked off by the, what is it?
I mean, it might be Lion King, but
is it Lion King?
You're talking about Scar knocking his
He doesn't
brother?
know who Scar is.
I know Scar. He's the mean lion guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good description. There we go. The mean lion guy.
He's memorable. He's got a great villain song in that movie. Disney. I just got to say.
Should we sing that?
No, you don't.
Not now.
Maybe one day.
Okay. I got really excited when you said, should we sing that? I was like,
But she's an alpha, and it's extremely hard to knock off the alpha. That's the whole thing, is the alpha is always the alpha. It'll die rather than not be alpha. So I don't know if that dynamic is going to change. So it has to be micromanaged. I think you guys have to be a unified front against this type of behavior.
I agree with that. I agree with that, because I think it adds credibility when, look, where there's smoke, there's fire. The three of you find this to be a problem, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And so I do think it adds, and not in like a ganging up kind of way, but it adds credibility. It's not between you and your mom. Then it's just like this. But when it's between someone else and you're like, hey, I agree with dad. This is how I feel, like, let's unpack that. I'd like to think that over time that she has the self-awareness to be like, oh, all three of them are disagreeing with me. If she doesn't, then we're starting to get into, I think, potential narcissistic spectrum land, which I feel uncomfortable sort of unpacking because I don't think we're qualified. But I love that you've been kind of chipping away at the idea of her going to therapy, especially since she did that with you. I mean, you're not asking anything of her that she did not ask of you, and you did the thing that she wanted you to do.
And I'm glad that I did. I've been seeing the same therapist for 7 years now. And sure, like, I had a session with him last week, and I was like, we need to remove everything we've been talking off the table. We need to bring in this problem. And he was like, whoa, that's a doozy. And I was like, yes, it is. Wild. And it was kind of the same advice that you guys said, where it's like, you start to realize that and he said the same thing. He's like, Cierrah, you start to realize that you are parenting your parents. Yeah. I was like, the sense of relief and freedom that I felt when I was able to start understanding my attachment and my control and all this other stuff and just let that go. I felt like a new person. And so I'm like, I kind of want that for you, Mom.
I actually think that when you broach the topic with your mom, the idea of it being like, I think you would feel better. You know what I mean? Instead of like, you need to go to therapy, it's more like, think about how good it'll feel. I mean, sometimes talking to your parents about stuff like this really is an art.
Yeah.
And I don't think it necessarily gets easier. You could be nipping in the bud a lot of future turmoil in this family by doing what you're doing. I guess this is the long way of saying we're on your side and we think that you're not the asshole here.
No.
And I agree, Andy. Like, I guess him taking out the nose ring was sort of like just him waving the white flag. It's okay. It bugs me though on a like justice level.
Yeah. Well, this was not his Waterloo. He'll have another bigger battle.
Yeah.
And he'll be ready to fight. But, I also would emphasize that positive reinforcement should be at play here. So not just like every time she does something wrong, criticizing her and yelling at her, but also rewarding her. Like, think of her as like an old dog. She's basically an old alpha dog. And you got to train this dog. And you can't train it with kicks. You got to train it with treats, really good treats. Sometimes, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe a kick once in a while.
Actually,
I've never trained a dog, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
There's no kicking.
I don't kick dogs. I love dogs. The thing I do wrong is I pet other people's dogs and they yell at me sometimes.
Yeah,
I'm too
Andy's
aggressive.
not great about asking for permission to pet people's dogs, but
not important.
He just gets so excited.
Yeah. They got to be pet.
No, that was a great analogy. I just love when you come up with those. And that one was like perfect for me because when my dog and I are training together, I say I'm like an athlete. I'm in flow. Great. Yeah. No, and actually, you know what? That is an extremely good point, and something that I really need to remember is the positive reinforcement as well. Solid point.
Yeah, I agree, Andy. Good job.
Well, thank you.
This is definitely one of those like not black and white. This is one of those conversation.
Yeah, it's conversation
sessions. But I love your question. I think that whenever we can have one that sort of talks about parents, the dynamics between adult children and parents, and like the realization, like I said, that your parents are not the superheroes that you thought they were for so much of your life. It's kind of jarring.
For me, I appreciate the validation that like me stepping in wasn't going over a line that shouldn't be crossed. It was like, if this is going to be out here for everyone to see, then because I had that internal battle. I'm like, do I even say anything or should I? And I ended up going with it and saying something, and I'm glad that I did.
And the reason you even had this thought and the reason you're on this podcast is because your mother trained you to feel that way. She trained you to be like, you don't criticize, you don't tell us how to do our thing.
Yeah,
and that's not the way a family operates.
I'm the boss.
Yeah. At least that's not the way a modern family operates. Maybe in the 1800s.
And there's also, I think that depending on who you talk to, maybe some people might think that it isn't your place. But I mean, you're living in the house. Like, it sounds like you're a very close family. It's not like you guys are just dispersed all over the place, and then the only time you talk to your mom is to side with your dad over some fight they're in. Like, this is totally different.
Does your mom like you being in the house, or is this like she's not into it?
No, I mean, she does like it. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Like, she didn't. If you were putting her out, then maybe you'd have less leverage. That's all I'm saying. She'd be like, you want to live on the street? Yeah, criticize me some more.
See where that gets you.
Messed up. Yeah. I can tell you're from Vancouver.
Yeah.
She's got little like mannerisms.
Yeah.
Very Vancouver.
A little Jasmine.
Really?
Oh, Jasmine.
Yeah,
I was thinking
Jasmine.
a bit. Jasmine Lorimer, who was Bachelorette Canada, is a dear friend of mine. Also, Caitlin Bristow. There's like when she she's like, there's a little drama. Like, she goes into this.
So true.
It's such a Vancouver thing to me.
Major compliment, because I love Caitlin, obviously.
Yeah.
And I also love you. Before we got on the call, I was like, I'm sweating. Everything is sweating. My husband's like, can you just breathe? And I was like, no, I can't. It's Sharleen and Andy. I was freaking out, dude.
Oh, sweet. Not Sharleen and Adam. She's a true
she
Shandy.
knows.
One of my favorite quotes from you, Andy, was the one you said, like, time plus trauma equals the recipe for, that's like the formula for humor.
Yeah.
Tragedy plus time.
Tragedy plus time.
Man, that is so true. So that's one of my favorites from you. You're essential.
I can't 100% guarantee that I invented that.
No, I know, but it was from you on this podcast. And
yeah.
I think you did paraphrase someone, or you were quoting something else that you'd seen. But I was like, gosh, I'm so glad he brought that into my life, because that is accurate.
It is very.
And it can sometimes help in the moment. When you're still in the tragedy.
Yeah, because you know that with time, you'll be laughing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe with time, we'll be laughing about this one day.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I hate to break it to you, but the second you leave, we are going to laugh about this.
Of course.
So it's like tragedy plus like 10 seconds.
Depends how close you are to the tragedy.
Yeah.
The closer you are, the longer the time. The further away, the shorter the time. I get it. Yeah.
We have the benefit of being distant from I will say I'm not envious of your situation.
Yeah, no. But seriously, good luck.
Yeah. I'm
Thank you.
optimistic. I feel like if anyone can make a difference in this situation, it's you. I mean, you're very good at talking about it.
This is going to be good.
Yeah. All right, Cierrah.
Great. Thank you both so much.
Thank you for spending your Thursday, I guess, afternoon with us.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was so nice.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Okay. Oh, man. Oh,
you know what the dad should have done? He should have been like, all right, I'll get rid of the nose ring and taking it out, and then come back the next day with a dick ring.
A dick ring? Is that a thing?
That's
I'm
absolutely
sure.
a thing.
You're right. Of course it's a thing.
Are you kidding me?
I've actually seen one.
So how are you asking me if that's a thing?
I forgot about it until you said it, and then I was like, oh wait, a dick ring. I have seen a dick ring.
It's a thing. Ball ring,
It was
dick
actually
ring.
it was a gay friend who showed me this.
Yeah,
this
it's
dick
actually
ring.
not only a thing, it's like a thing. It's like it's not that uncommon.
Yeah, I mean, I was really wowed by it when I saw. I was really like, damn,
It's
that's a commitment.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a tough one. I think that parent dynamics, it's not easy.
No.
Like when you said old dog, it's true. It's like the expression about old dog, new tricks. It's like her trying to reprogram not only her mother, but how her mother treats the family. Yeah. She considers herself the boss.
She's the boss.
And she's doing this thing that I think sometimes parents can do where she's demanding respect instead of commanding respect.
Yeah.
If you demand it, you're going about it the wrong way.
Well, she rules with fear.
Yes.
It's doesn't create a happy environment.
Yeah.
It creates an environment where you're like, oh, you're nice today?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes me feel good. That's not a good thing.
Yeah. And then it probably feels like she is not in the loop because of the dynamic she's created.
No.
It does say something that none of them want to tell her anything.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That was the issue, is that like she was talking about this nose ring, but the issue was why are you so scared to talk to your mother about how she's not treating your father right? Mm-hmm. That was the issue to me.
It was an interesting one because in the beginning I was like, there's two sides to every coin. Part of me was like really trying to put myself in the mother's shoes over this. But I still think like facts are facts. It's not up for debate whether or not he was forced to sleep on the sofa. It's not enough for me to express that I'm displeased with your choice, but I'm going to punish you for it like a child.
Yeah.
I'm going to take away your toys. You can't go to that birthday party. Like that's hardcore.
And it's sad. It's not like the guy went out. It's so crazy. I mean, it's not like he got like some huge bone through his nose. It was just like a dainty little
I feel like
ring.
you've been thinking this whole call about the thing that was a level up bone.
I immediately like I compartmentalized. I was like, okay, is this a bone situation or a little ring? Because there's a big difference. But it was a little ring. I feel bad for him. He was like all excited probably. I feel like he's like a big kid.
Yeah.
And he got smacked.
Yeah. I feel like one of the cruelest things you can do to someone is to take away or to dampen that youthful adventurousness, that spontaneity, that side of yourself that's like, I'm going to do this crazy thing and I'm not hurting anyone. Like he's not hurting anyone by doing this.
No.
Like okay, so it's not her personal preference. She's not his boss.
No.
And it's so sad to take that away from him and fill him with, now next time he wants to do something just sort of fun as a form of self-expression, it's like
she's going to change him. And buyer beware. She bought a guy who does all these things.
You could say buyer beware for him too. I mean,
true. Buyer beware for both. Yeah, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope she's successful navigating this. It's going to be hard. It's going to be long.
Yes.
And hard. So what would you do if I came home with a nose ring?
A nose ring? I would be upset that it's the communication thing, but it really is that. I'm sure I would be more upset if you shaved your head or got a tattoo.
On my face.
It would depend where the tattoo is, I suppose, or what the tattoo was.
What if I just got like teardrop tattoos?
It's so hard to even imagine that.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's nothing less likely.
Okay, what would be the thing that I would do that I might actually do?
I think shave your head.
I don't think I'd shave my head, but I might like cut it.
Yeah, I'll get like a pixie cut.
Yeah, what would you do if I came home with a pixie cut?
That might look cool. I don't know. I think I'd be like, I would be disappointed you didn't alert me to it.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Even if I liked it, I would be like, whoa, like there was no discussion?
Yeah.
But, I think you'd probably look great. And whatever, I deal with it.
There's a famous story in my family where my mom had really long hair, like really long, like pin straight hair. And she went on some trip one time and came back. She and my dad were dating.
Oh.
And she came back and was like cut to here. And he was like,
oh, man.
But what he didn't do was make her sleep on the sofa.
No. I mean, if anyone in that family is making someone sleep on the sofa, your mom's making her dad sleep on the sofa.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. I'm curious to see what the Shandys think of this one, if there was a different perspective on this. We are hearing her side of the story. I'm sure the mother...
No, she has a side.
But I really believe in where there's smoke, there's fire. And the fact that the two children and the father are all kind of like walking on the eggshells in tandem.
Agree. And I think this was a red herring. This is like, honestly, to be honest, if I wanted to just take away all my bias, I would say maybe she's in the right a little bit. Maybe she should have told me about this.
Yeah.
It's a little messed up. Like, I know you did all this stuff in the past, but we're like in our 50s now. Maybe we should tone it down. Like, I don't want you to have a nose ring. I get it. Like, she's not a monster for getting upset about it. She's a bit of a monster for the way she treated him. But this is a bigger problem. That's nothing. This has nothing to do with the ring.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. What's the expression? I'm trying to use it like sideways here. It's the expression where the cover up is worse than the crime.
That's the expression. It's exactly the expression.
Yay. I was thinking that her reaction, it's like a two wrongs don't make a right. Like, sure, he didn't tell her and she was shocked, but really it's how far she took it where she became the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like that is,
She went too far.
What she did was worse than whatever crime he committed.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do that. Like, it's easy to go too far. And what's so important is that you can at least recognize that, which seems to be what they're all working on right now. I am not envious of that situation.
She's got to work it out for her.
Yeah.
And that's that. Case closed.
I want an update on that one. And I feel like I feel Cierrah is the kind of Shandy who will give us one.
I agree.
Yeah. If you enjoyed what you heard today, you know what we will ask of you, and that is to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow us on Instagram, and
TikTok,
leave us Apple and
Spotify
podcast ratings and reviews. Tell your friends.
Tell them. And
generally do all the things you would do to support a podcast you enjoy. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Dear Shandy. Bye-bye.